Morning. I'll have a quick introduction to COP so that we'll have more detailed discussions later. I think some of my points will be also be repeated by Professor Purushottam Reddy because we come from the same school of thought. But this workshop is a capacity building workshop. So it is almost like a training క్లాస్. సాయి భాస్కర్ రెడ్డి చెప్పినట్టు ఈ వర్క్షాప్ ప్లాన్ ఏంటంటే ఇక్కడికి వచ్చిన వాళ్ళు తోటి కలిసి మేము ఎక్కడైతే వర్క్షాప్లు చేస్తున్నామో అక్కడ ఇక వీళ్ళందరూ రిసోర్స్ పర్సన్గా వెళ్ళడానికి. సో అట్ ద ఎండ్ ఆఫ్ ది డే వీ హ్యావ్ ఎ ప్లాన్. షేర్ దట్ విత్ యూ అండ్ వీల్ ఆస్క్ యూ యువర్ వాలంటీరింగ్ time for wherever you want to go. So I request all of you to stay through the workshop, and also we ask the resource persons to come and stay for the entire workshop, because again this is not some person coming and talking for half an hour and going away, because they also need to learn. All of us need to learn because this is a evolving subject and our role is also evolving. Our views can change, they can improve, keep thinking about what needs to be done. అందుకని రిసోర్స్ పర్సన్స్ ఉండాలి అని స్పెసిఫిక్గా రాయడం కూడా జరిగింది. సరే రిసోర్స్ పర్సన్ ఇంకా రాలేదు, వస్తే విల్ సీ, బికాస్ దే ఆర్ ఆల్సో గోయింగ్ టు పార్టిసిపేట్ ఇన్ దిస్ ఎంటైర్ activities. So but we hope we are reaching out to more youngsters. So the more efforts we make, the more we'll be able to do that. So my request to all of you, each of you individually, is you can have our contact numbers anytime, any day. You can talk to us and you can give us suggestions, and also you can volunteer your services, because we need more people. It's not just one or two people. So with that I'll begin. I think I hope to take only half an hour. It should not be this is actually a overview of COP, so I did not change, sorry for that. No, we had a workshop with Federation of Trade, Chambers, Commerce and Industry, and that was the title for them, because we want them to. So ఇది మెయిన్ UN framework for convention on climate change. In fact entire climate change negotiations and now all international negotiations will be there are a lot of abbreviations and terminology, so we need to understand what it means. In fact negotiations, whenever they happen, they look at each word, the concept very closely. So in fact they put that in bracket also. మనము పట్టించుకోము, కానీ ఇది గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి. పొడుగున్నాయి కదా అని మనం దాన్ని ఇగ్నోర్ చేస్తే కాదు. దిస్ ఈజ్ ఏ UN ఫ్రేమ్వర్క్ ఆఫ్ ఫర్ కన్వెన్షన్ ఆన్ క్లైమేట్ చేంజ్. I think it began with scientific reports. Again, most people, even today, there are people who challenge climate change. They say there is no climate change. And that includes scientists. And in recent days, after Corona, now there are a group of people who look at everything else and say it's not climate change, it is geoengineering, it is a conspiracy. So all sorts of concepts are there. So that's why but you need to remember that it has started with a report. International panel has given those reports. Even today those reports are the basis for that UN framework of convention on climate change. So in fact we are going to discuss another recent report later. So they have issued 6 reports, 6 assessment reports, and each one tries to warn us what is happening, how difficult things are becoming, how hazardous the living has become. So all those issues have been mentioned, and IPCC reports, even Indian scientists are participating nowadays. In fact, yesterday IPCC has given an advertisement for experts to involve in urban cities. There is now a call. I think the date is also over, but they are trying to include as many scientists as possible all over the world. So it's not, earlier when they began, it was mostly the Western countries, but now a lot of the scientists from developed countries are also part of that, and they access many research reports across the world. So the assessment is not just done superficially or based on satellite data. They access meteorological warnings, they access extreme weather events. So there are number of studies there that they look at. So when you look at the sixth assessment report, you can see the references, hundreds of references are there. So it is a scientific report, and people who challenge that, they could not, point out any methodological error in those reports. So far 27 COPs have happened. So this year, from 30th November to 12th December, 28th conference of parties is going to happen. I think internationally, as a political science student, you can see that this is the longest continuing sustained negotiations which are happening. This is a brief chronology. I will not go one by one, but it started in 1972. So from there, it began. So the IPCC report started, it started in 1990. The first report came in 1990, and IPCC itself was established in 88. So that's a long history we are looking at. So the sixth assessment report came in 2021. They said Code Red. This is the title of the report. Code Red, as Code Red. They warned severely, but I think everyone ignored that. Yeah. So these are the sequence with which this UN framework started working, because that got adopted in 1992, and from there, 1995 there was the first COP. So 1995 to 2023, except a brief period of 2 years in due to Corona, every year there has been a COP meeting. But there are some significant milestones. One is the Kyoto Protocol, which was an agreement to reduce greenhouse gases. So that was adopted in 1997, and but implementation started in 2005 because a lot of rules had to be framed. Who will reduce how much? All those details need to be worked out. So it took a lot of time. Even ratification, it took a lot of time. Industrialized countries like US took again a lot of time to ratify. They ratified only in 2001. So then now the Kyoto Protocol, the period was ending by 2007 or thereabout. Then negotiations started on how to continue that. So there was a Doha amendment which extended Kyoto Protocol up to 2020. Now in COP28 in Dubai, they are going to discuss, there is a stream of discussion on Doha amendment as well. So there are several streams, we are not talking of one negotiation and one negotiating room. There are several, I'll show you that. So this continues to be discussed, because the Doha amendment, many people think is still a worthwhile and relevant agreement which needs to be continued. So the next milestone is Paris Agreement. Now this happened in 2015 at COP21. In fact, it happened on the last penultimate day, after extension of the conference for a day. They finalized it on the last penultimate day. And why it is continues to be significant is that's Paris Agreement clearly established two principles. One is voluntary reduction in emissions, carbon emissions, and they said the goal instead of someone giving the goal, countries should declare their own goal, and that has to be ambitious. Ambitious means you have to quickly reduce. That's what the sentiment was. So the Paris Agreement brought this nationally determined commitments, NDCs. So though that is the methodology through which each country is going to declare when they are going to reduce their emissions, and how they are going to do that is also determined nationally, and they can have freedom of bringing policies in that. This is very significant because internationally, who will decide for whom? US can tell India to reduce fossil fuels, or why India can tell US. These are the questions which keep coming up because all are independent sovereign countries. So that's how Paris Agreement was a big breakthrough. But then, of course, we'll discuss what happened later. But you need to keep looking back at Paris Agreement, and whatever agreement has happened, the rule book which was formed after the agreement, because they started developing the rule book, and that rule book is still not complete. So this is another stream of negotiations which is happening in the COP.